Jean Piaget, Constructivist theory. Constructivism is the notion that learning is a process of constructing meaning. It is how people make sense of their experience. In other words, how does one know what they know? People construct knowledge out of their physical and mental interactions. This information either assimilates with current knowledge or will form additional structures to accommodate the new information. These structures are called schemas. Constructivism's visualization of building information on existing information is indicative of an inverted pyramid, where everything is piled on an initial thought. However, if information is not able to be categorized and assimilated with current knowledge, the foundation will build outward through scaffolding, securing a strong foundation for the building of knowledge. One way to explore constructivism is to start with a basic concept, food. Both bread and apples are food, apples are fruit, fruit and chocolate are sweets, desserts are sweet, cake and pie are desserts. Apples are food, they are sweet fruit and can be used in dessert, apple pie, apple cake, or just eating an apple. Jean Piaget was born in 1896. He was a renowned scholar in several fields, including biology, psychology, and education. He published over 100 books and 600 papers throughout his career. Piaget entered the educational learning theory field with his book, The Language and Thought of the Child, which was published in 1923. Just over 10 years later, he published The Origins of Intelligence in Children. While those early works solidified his role in educational theory, he continued his work until his death in 1980. Piaget observed children and linked intellectual ability over the course of age progression. This cognitive development was labeled ages and stages. According to Piaget, knowledge is limited by the cognitive stage and ability of the individual. Piaget took a scientific approach to learning and development. Instead of focusing on the learning outcomes, he instead studied the formation of knowledge. This was counteracting to the empiricists and rationalists of the time. Lev Vygotsky was a contemporary to Piaget. Vygotsky counteracted Piaget's constructivist theory by moving the creation of knowledge from an internal to a social environmental process. As constructivism requires previous knowledge to build new knowledge, and unfamiliar additions lead to higher levels of thinking, this previous knowledge must originate outside the individual and their environment. This is one place where Vygotsky and Piaget disagreed. In constructivist learning, the teacher becomes the facilitator, guide, or coach. While the teacher is present, they are not the center in the lesson. The student takes control of the learning experience. The teacher must ascertain where the student's current knowledge ends and begin teaching from that point. The teacher needs to ask, what do my students need to learn, as opposed to, what do I want to teach? Recently, there has been a movement for a no-zero policy, or a 50% policy for grading. The premise is that on a 100-point grading scale, a 0 is not fair, even if half the points are failing. This is detrimental to the student who has been demonstrating consistent mastery for months, which can be undone by a single poor grade. However, professional standards suggest such subjective assessment as unethical and can lead to academic enabling and success bias. Adult learners are primed for constructivist principles. As adults have a wealth of experience and prior knowledge from which to build, constructivist learning strategies can be a catalyst for higher knowledge and the creation of deep, vibrant learning. There are a number of teaching strategies and learning activities that integrate constructivist principles. Immersive learning, experiential, problem-based learning can take the form of discussion, reflection, journaling, role play, and collaboration. These activities can be included in lessons for students of all ages and throughout all disciplines. In order for information to be transformed into knowledge, student-centered learning must include time allocated for reflection and discussion. Students need to build a community so that they can take ownership for their learning experience. A few words of caution. Students still need the teacher as the expert in the room. Just because information is readily available through Google doesn't mean direct instruction isn't necessary. The wealth of information needs focused, sorted through for validity, and approached and interpreted in context. Teachers can keep the information and the lesson on track. In addition, if the student is assessed on the process of learning rather than the outcome, then the subjective evaluation is difficult to measure on standardized tests and often factor into teacher performance review. This concept of building on prior knowledge and having information at your fingertips with no guidance on how to use it reminds me of every elementary child who has asked a teacher how to spell a word. The teacher tells the student to look it up in the dictionary. The student thinks, how can I look it up in the dictionary if I don't know how to spell it? With today's technology, do you need to know how to spell correctly? Microsoft Word, spell check, TextSpeak, all will do this job for you. You can just Google it. But it takes knowledge of language, conversation, phonetics, and the use of technology to be able to successfully use those tools to spell the word you are thinking of. To me, this is a perfect example of Piaget's constructivist learning theory.